Into it. First question, how do I improve ankle mobility to get into a deeper squat? So the first question you want to ask yourself is, number one, why do you need a deeper squat? And yeah, do you need a deep squat for your sport? So specifically, if we're talking about, let's say, for example, if you're a weightlifter, Olympic weightlifter, or a powerlifter, and you just want to get a deeper squat because you need to get to a certain depth for your sport, then obviously this applies. If you're just someone that wants to get a deeper squat for the sake of it, I don't really see the point of it. But the simplest way to do it is to get some slant boards and stick them under your heels. So essentially you're creating some artificial heels so that your knee can go over your toe. It can go over your toe basically further, which will allow you to sit into the bottom of a squat in a more vertical position. So all a slant board is essentially, imagine this book and imagine this is your heel, and it allows you to, instead of being flat on the floor, you're up like this, so then your knee can travel further over your toe. And yeah, what I would do, depending on how limited you are, is start with quite a large slant board, a good chunk of heel elevation, a good chunk of heel wedge, and then just do your normal squats with that, and then week by week try to decrease the amount of heel elevation until you get back down towards the floor. Because you're loading that position with quite a lot of weight, then your body will just adapt, your nervous system will get used to it, and before you know it, maybe in a few months you'll be at the floor and you'll be squatting much more upright and you'll be able to sit to the bottom of that squat. That's the simplest way I've found with people. Next question, how do I get rid of tight hamstrings? So this is actually a really good question. So a lot of people will probably try like stretching or foam rolling, and the reason that isn't working is because we need to think a little bit deeper about where the tightness is actually coming from with the hamstrings. The first thing to think about is actually, are the hamstrings doing too much work? A lot of people who are hypermobile or essentially very, very flexible, so people who've done dancing before, gymnasts, things like that, they're very, very loose through their hamstrings, very, very loose. And they actually we need to get them to have tighter hamstrings, but we also need to get the glutes to do more of the work than the hamstrings, which is what I was getting to, ranting a bit there. But essentially the glutes are a much bigger muscle than the hamstring. And when we do movements that require hip extension, so all hip extension is that thrusting your hips through on the way back up from a deadlift or a hip thrust, and your glutes are part of that movement and your hamstrings are part of that movement, but the glutes should be doing most of the work. So first thing would be looking at that. Are your hamstrings actually doing too much work? Can we offload something to the glutes? And the second thing is, are they actually strong enough in two different positions? So hip extension, which we talked about, but the hamstrings also do another job, which is to flex the knee or bend the knee. So a lot of people only train hip extension, but they don't go and do things like seated hamstring curls, lying hamstring curls, things like that. So that might be something you want to add into your training that can also help out a lot. Hopefully that answers that question. Struggling to deadlift because of lower back pain, where do I start? So a common issue that people have with deadlifting and lower back pain is that the lower back is doing too much of the work and they can't sit into their hips very well, they can't use their glutes very well. So the easiest way to fix this is a kickstand hinge. I'm not going to run through this because it is quite lengthy to explain, but there's loads of videos on my YouTube using the kickstand hinge. If you just type in hip mobility, it will more than likely be on there, or hip pain.